fellow Liberians and citizens of the world. I am Dr. Joseph Tomungalode Gbaba, a descendant of King Boudwo II of the Nia dynasty of the Crown ethnic group of Liberia. As a traditional royalty and an educator and national playwright of Liberia, custodian of Liberian arts and culture for the past 43 years, it behooves me to address all of you, all Liberians, all Africans, and citizens of the world regarding the present status of the Republic of Liberia. The world is concerned that for the past nearly 30 years, there has been lawlessness, mayhem, atrocities, impunity in Africa's oldest republic, Liberia, the Israel of the black race, a land that was chosen by the God of our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to be the land of the free for all free men and women of color. And the atrocities and lawlessness were engineered by foreign influences as well as by greedy and selfish Liberian politicians. I want to give you a historical background of Liberia, its status right now as a conflict zone in the sub-region of West Africa, and to appeal to you to support rule of law in Liberia. As we all know, our indigenous ancestors migrated from Eastern, Central, and parts of Northern Africa many millennia ago. Some of the ethnic groups of Liberia are remnants of ancient African Jews. They include members of the Kwa speaking groups of Liberia, which include Kran, Kru, Grebo, Bassa, Bele, and the Dewian people, the Day people. These ethnic groups are not just different people who are not related by blood. These ethnic groups are descendants of brothers' children. Brothers' children. The father of the Crown people was brother to the father of the Kru people. The father of the Kru people was related to the fathers of the Bassa people, the Bele people, the Dewian people. So those of us who come from Eastern Liberia, we are descendants of brothers' children. That's why we speak the languages we speak, we can understand one another. That's why we live together. That's why we live in the same region. Our other indigenous brothers who are members of the Mande speaking group that include Loma, Bandi, Kisi, Pele, Madingo, Va, Gola, Ma, Dan. All these people come from the Niger, Sudan regions of Africa, and we all converged on what is called Liberia today. All those ethnic groups that I mentioned are also related by blood. So when our indigenous ancestors asked the gods of their forefathers to provide for them a safe place, a haven where they can live together in peace and harmony, God directed each one of those traditional ethnic groups to what is now called Liberia. And because of the blessings that we received from Almighty God, that our ancestors received from Almighty God, Liberia is the only landscape on the continent of Africa that was never colonized by European powers, by Western powers. We have maintained our liberty, our freedoms, and our happiness, our sovereignty from the beginning of time. And that in 1847, when the free slaves who migrated from Africa, from the United States of America, that repatriated, returned to Liberia and to Chevron Island in Sierra Leone. When they came, they introduced the Western form of government. But before that time, you see how I'm dressed with my royal regalia. Our ancestors had a governance system that was not a democratic system, that was not where you had presidents, where you got in line to elect presidents and vice presidents. They didn't have three branches of government like the way we do in the Western world that we are imitating. Our ancestors were ruled by kings, by monarchs, a council of our elders. So that's why today some of us have that royal heritage and royal lineage, because that was how our people were ruled. However, when the free slaves came to Liberia and established a Western form of government, there were a lot of conflicts. And this is where the Liberian conflict started from. Number one, the governance system that they introduced, the presidential, vice presidential position, three branches of government, was contrary to the monarchical form of government of our ancestors. So that was a political conflict right there. The language, the official language of communication, which they introduced, that I'm speaking right now, is not the traditional official language of the Liberian or indigenous people. So communicating in a language that 99% of the people don't understand created another conflict. So there's a linguistic conflict right there that was instituted. The religious system that the free slaves imported from the Western world, this modern form of Christianity, of course started from Africa, but the Westerners kind of should I say revised it or did whatever they did to it to make it seem like it is their religion and that it is foreign to the African people. So as a result, they claim to be the chosen people of God when they are not. And that we are supposed to be barbarians because of the way how we worship and we relate to our God. So the Western form of religion that was introduced contradicted the religious beliefs and practices of our people. So again, we had a religious conflict. All of these conflicts kind of added up in the final analysis. But at the time of independence, when Liberia declared its independence because the British were encroaching upon our territorial confines, the French were encroaching upon our territorial confines. Liberia should not be, the landscape of Liberia goes far beyond the Mana River Bridge. It goes all the way to Sherbro Island. All those places are supposed to be part of the Republic of Liberia, but the British people took those lands, forcefully took those lands away from our people. That's why you see the Mende people in Sierra Leone are related to the Mende people in Liberia. The Mende people in Guinea are related to the Mende people in Liberia. So as a result of the encroachment of Western powers, the founding fathers of the modern Republic of Liberia were forced to declare themselves independent. And when they declared themselves independent, America was not the first to recognize Liberia as an independent nation. It was Great Britain. Great Britain did that first. But at the time of independence, there were only 3 counties: Monserrado, Grand Bassa, and Sando. Those regions were considered the Republic of Liberia. If you came from what is now Nima County, you are not a Liberian. If you came from Grand Juda County, you are not a Liberian. If you came from Lofa, you are not a Liberian. If you came from Bonk, you are not a Liberian. Liberia was just that landscape: Monserrado, Grand Bassa, and Sando. That was Liberia. Later on, Monserrado included other places like Grand Cape Mount. So they included Grand Cape Mount in about 1856 or something like that. And Grand Cape Mount became the 4th political subdivision. So then the Vai people and the Gola people on that side were included as Liberians. Maryland colonization society came, and they tried to establish themselves in the Maryland area and the Grand Cru area, and began to encroach upon the rights of the Gbaba people, the Cru people. And our ancestors, Cru and Gbaba ancestors, did not tolerate that. They fought the devil out of them until Maryland was forced to join the Liberian Union, and because Maryland was a republic by itself. But they couldn't defend themselves from the fierce Gbaba and Cru warriors on the east coast of Liberia. So they had to join the Union. So Maryland became a part of the Republic of Liberia. So now we had 5 counties. So those who lived in Monserrado, Grand Bassa, Sando, Grand Cape Mount, and Maryland were full-fledged Liberian citizens. Even though indigenous people lived in these places, they were not represented in the government. They were forced to pay taxes, but they were not represented in the government. They didn't hold governmental positions because, quote unquote, they were supposed to be country. This is where the country and the Congo and the American Liberian thing came from from the very beginning. So it took 107 years, 107 years for President Tubman in 1964 to include the indigenous people, the country people that live in the hinterland of Liberia, to be part of the governance system of the Republic of Liberia, so that they could get full representation in the House of Representatives and the Senate and all of that. That was when in 1964, Grand Jide, Nimba, Bong, and Lofa were declared counties in Liberia. 1964, 107 years after independence or whatever it is, before the Crown people, the Bush Grable people, the Mana people, the Gyo people, the Pele people, the Loma, the Kisi, the Bandi, whatever it is that live in the hinterland, that's when they became full-fledged Liberian citizens. And of course, during that time frame, there was only one traditional Liberian, if my memory serves me well, H2 Wesley, who was the first to rise up to the position of vice president in the Republic of Liberia. After H2 Wesley, the other person was Harry Moniba, and the third person is Dr. Joseph Noma Boyka. So that just three persons after 170 or 74 years of independence or whatever, is three native people. And then, of course, Samuel Kanyado was the first indigenous Liberian to be president of Liberia. That makes it 4 out of all the other people that they had going in and out of the executive mansion. So this issue that we are faced with at this time has become even more complicated, because over these years and over this over a century and a half, the Liberian people have integrated. We have intermarried. We've had children. Our children are related to the Congo people, they're related to the country people, they're related to the American Liberians. We're all one people. The indigenous Liberians have intermarried. Gyo men marry Crown woman, Crew men marry Kisi woman, this and that, blah, blah, blah. We're all mixed. So this election time and this particular stage of our sovereignty is not about tribalism, it's not about Congoism, it's not about countryism, it's about Liberianism. We got to put Liberia first. Now, I have a bone to pick with the American people. And I will start from the time of President Tolbert. You know, Tubman, who was supposed to be my surrogate father, ruled Liberia for 27 years. And they kept it so say one, so say all. Never let the qualified indigenous people to hold good positions in the government. Tolbert was the one who said, you know what, I want a new Liberia. And to have a new Liberia, Congo people, American Liberians, country people, we all got to put together to build this Liberia. He was the one that made that giant step and started appointing indigenous Liberians as ministers, as this and that. The members of the status quo got mad with Tolbert because they felt that he was breaking their so say one, so say all. Remember the pioneers' children and this and that. But Tolbert was even the first Liberian president to get on radio to speak Pele. Because it was forbidding to wear these kinds of things that I'm wearing during those days when we were coming up. You couldn't even speak your language. You are supposed to be barbarian if you did so. You are supposed to be uneducated if you did so. So President Tolbert made a giant step with his total involvement and this and that. He may have had his own little thing going and all of that, but he did some dramatic things that brought a huge difference in the lives of the Liberian people. I'm a living testimony because I was a student at the University of Liberia when I established Decorative Artists 40 years ago at the University of Liberia. The president was very gracious. He welcomed and invited me and my theater company to the executive mansion on so many occasions. He was a man that loved the youth, and he considered all of us his precious jewels. And he supported me more than when a crown man got there to be president. I never did anything for Doe at the mansion or whatever it is, because that was a different thing. Now this is where we are at. Because, and Tolbert was very, very progressive also on the continent. At that time, apartheid was raging. The Africans in Southern Africa were under colonial rule. They were being ill-treated. Tolbert launched the National Fund Drive for the liberation of Southern Africa. And inspired by his foresight and leadership, I wrote The Chains of Apartheid, which demonstrated the ills that were being done to our brothers and sisters in Southern Africa, including Mandela, who was in jail at that time. And that production was shown at the State House in Sierra Leone. It was shown several times at the Executive Mansion Theater under the auspices of Celsus Dennis Jr., Foreign Minister of Liberia. It was shown for all diplomats accredited near Liberia, in Monrovia. These people encouraged the youth to excel. They didn't give us guns to go and kill our mind and our past. I have an issue with the American people because of Tolbert's progressiveness. They engineered that coup, that military coup that took place in 1980 was not engineered by Doe and Kwimwangpa and Wesson and all those people. They were just used as stooges. They were used as stooges. They didn't engineer that coup. According to our witnesses, they saw people, Caucasians, people with white hands and things that slaughtered the president of Liberia. Because that's the greater scheme of things with the Westerners. When an African leader is progressive, they do all they can to get rid of you so they can put in puppets. So what happened in 1980? In 1980, which is also the source of this Liberian civil war that we face with today, after they killed the president and put in third graders, high school dropouts, people with no experience, like Opon, we are them and all of that, they put them in power. And the regrettable part about it is that the so-called intellectuals we had at that time, they were so communist oriented. They wanted to show, wanted to bring communism in Liberia. The Bacchus Matthew, the Tipote, the Fambule, the Amos Sawyer, the Jew Mason, and all those people, they have to answer. They have to answer to some of those things that happened in 1980 with the 13 people that were killed. They have to answer to to the Liberian people in due course. Because that's where our suffering and our trouble started from. So after America engineered that and put these people in power that knew nothing about it and all of that, then with these so-called socialist-minded political advisors, went and ill-advised those soldier boys, and they killed 13 experienced politicians, national leaders. Richard Abraham Henrys, Speaker of the House of Representatives, eloquent speaker, eloquent statesman. He was executed. Bolshevik style, like the way the Russian people did the revolution, that's what they did in 1980. With the aim that all these older people, they will kill them, get rid of them, so that they could take over the country. And they didn't have any good agenda. Did not have any good agenda. South Sudanese, a seasoned diplomat, he was executed with no due process. No due process. D. Franklin Neal, he was executed. No due process. Minister of Planning and Economic Affairs. These people knew a whole lot about the country. They were executed. Representative King, he was executed. I could go on naming. Bright. Cyril Bright, he was executed. P. Ernest Parker, an entrepreneur, a private businessman. He just unfortunately happened to have been the treasurer of the True Party at that time when the coup took place. A successful Liberian businessman, he was executed. So what do you think happened? All their relatives got together, lobbied, including the Elwood Dunn, who today is not saying anything. Dr. Elwood Dunn, they went to the Congress and made a big case out of it. That's how they got that support. To free Charles Taylor from prison, for him to come on wage war on our people, to kill over 250,000 people. That's why America is not opening her mouth to charge Charles Taylor for the atrocities he committed in Liberia. Fortunately for us, the British people were able to step up and say because he did what he did in Sierra Leone, so he got to go to jail for 50 years. America, you owe us an apology. You owe us reparations for the destruction of the lives and properties in our country. And we expect that you will do something in due course to make sure that we don't have another illiterate or ill-prepared person taking over the helm of state of the Republic of Liberia. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. In America, nobody steals a penny and gets elected. Jimmy Carter, it was during Jimmy Carter's time when that coup took place. It was during his time, and also, what was his name? George Bush, the older George Bush time, that Charles Taylor broke jail. Supposedly broke jail. And came and got all the support that he could have gotten. Here in America, when a prisoner breaks jail, they collect you the next minute. They put up announcements all over the place. He was free to move around, do this and do that. And the Jimmy Carter came to Liberia in 1997 to declare a rebel leader, somebody who has committed atrocities in the country, to declare the winner of a so-called election. We got a certain president who has attested that she financed the war. that caused the death of so many people all around the world suffering. And America can invite her and give her what's that? Congressional Medal of Honor. And the Norwegians can give her Nobel Peace Prize. Yes, you do that because it's Africans, because black lives don't matter. But you know the people in Bosnia and other places, all these warlords, and even the people in Germany the Nazis that executed all those people, all of that, you're still hunting for them all over the world to put them in prison to make sure that they face justice. But you take our people that make us suffer and you give them awards. Shame on you, because that's a contradiction of American democracy, the principles upon which the founding fathers of the United States stood. And the reason why the United States is the leader of the world, the free world. We don't want a repeat. We don't want a repeat of what has taken place in Liberia for the past 28 years. We don't want a repeat of that. And those election results better be good. Ladies and gentlemen, our club party, yeah, I'm on day, and day boy, don't boy, I club our near you probably will near Grusilla. Day one more, oh, you near granted, move photo at any charted or on down. I know now. Son and a year, November, we mess on the. Who say Bonye one, Ebon, I four, do charted or Yumbo, who say Bonye one now. Clapping, clapper. A Batio, Juanim le Pentio. These were Pentio. The people of Grand Jide, the people of Grand Cru, the people of Maryland, the people of Grand Bassa, the Darien people of Masurado, of Bomi. I'm calling on all of you to be patriotic. Put Liberia first. The people of Lofa, the people of Nimba, the people of Bonk, the people of Grand Jide. I'm calling on you to put Liberia first. The Mazagi that we have, who is in that race, Joseph Nyoma Boyka, must be respected. I ask all members of the Poro, the Sandy, the Niji, the Bon, all play. We need somebody who has the experience. Someone that we can work with, not warlord. This is no time for war in Liberia. It's time for peace. And the international community is watching. Sierra Leone's president has already made his declaration and how frustrated he is with Liberians going to the polls and voting for people that killed their ma and their pa. Let us sober up. This is my message to all of you. And I hope that you will listen. And by God's grace, we will take the right path so that we can get more support from the international community. I thank you for your time, and I hope that this message rings a bell. Do not forget to put Liberia first. Thank you, and may God bless you. I will club a party. When I'm out, yeah, I say, but you power.